All right, friend, you and I are about to have a very honest conversation about the difference between transparency and authenticity. And I'm going to talk to you about something I'm noticing in the online space that is becoming an epidemic. And I want you to help me stop it. I was at an event that a friend was running the other day, and there was a conversation that was brought up that is something I've talked about a lot inside of my life and inside of my business. In fact, back in the day when Clubhouse was the thing, I held a Clubhouse room on this that was one of the most popular rooms I ever held in the Clubhouse space. But I realized I've never shared this with you. You and I have never had this conversation. But now is the time because I'm seeing it show up more and more. And it's not only impacting people's businesses, but it's impacting their personal lives as well. And it's the difference between transparency and authenticity. You probably heard both of those words being thrown around a lot in the online space. You need to be more transparent, right? People want transparency in business and in government and all these things. We need to be more authentic. Be you. What happens is that we confuse the two. We start to think that transparency and authenticity are the same thing. And when we do that, it paralyzes us from sharing genuinely online, and ultimately that prevents connection. This takes us back to my community cultivated framework. One of my main 4 pillars is connection. And if you've ever taken any of my programs or heard me speak, you've heard me talk about how safety is at the foundation of connection. And safety requires trust. And trust requires authenticity, though, not transparency. So what's the difference? Well, authenticity, by definition, basically means that you're being true to your own personality or character, or that you're not false or an imitation, right? This is an authentic $100 bill versus it being a false or imposter or imitation of a $100 bill. The same way with people. Are you presenting a false version of yourself? Are you trying to imitate other people, right? How many of us are guilty of that? Whether we realize it or not, in the online space, many of us have built our following, our influence, our business, because we have been imitating others instead of being true to who we really are and our personality and our character. Maybe because at some point we were told that we were too much or we were not enough, or we looked at what everybody else was doing. I just had a conversation with a friend about this the other day, where it feels like a lot of the people online that do really well, they are a character. They're like something you would see on a TV show. And I'm not that, right? I'm not enough with who I am. I'm just a homeschool mom from Nashville with a messy house, and I only wear makeup when I have to, and I don't have exciting stories to tell. I spend most of my time within my little town. We're not traveling around, going to Italy. We don't have a whole lot of drama in our life. Like, what is there to tell? What's the story? Who would want to pay attention to that? So we don't show up authentically, or maybe we don't even show up at all. But what authenticity means is that we are who we say we are. We present ourselves to our community exactly as we truly are. Now, there is a difference, though, between authenticity and transparency. Transparency, by definition, literally means that you can see through it. There is no real definition that has to do with people being transparent. It talks about being free from deceit, and it talks about accessible information, especially in business and government. But unlike authenticity, that has a definition that really is connected to how we show up in the world, transparency does not have a definition like that. It really just means to see through, right? And for businesses and government to be transparent and free from deceit, well, that's probably never going to happen in our lifetime, right? But in our space, we have defined transparency to mean no secrets, no boundaries. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. Boundaries are set to protect us, not to help us hide, not so that we disappear, but they are here to protect us. Now, it feels incredibly risky to be fully transparent with anyone. I don't know about you, but I struggle sometimes to be fully transparent with my husband, whom I very much love and trust, right? But I still struggle to be fully transparent with him sometimes, much less being fully transparent with some stranger on the internet, you know? I take a lot of lessons from Jesus, and even Jesus had an inner circle. And guess what, friends? In that inner circle, he had an inner circle within his inner circle. I'm reading a book about boundaries right now, and it talks about how when we get hurt by people because we didn't uphold a boundary or because people crossed a boundary, knowingly crossed a boundary, that we often close off out of protection. And I have so been there in my life. If you knew my childhood and my story, you would understand why I'd built up all these big walls in my life, and it's a big part of my testimony. But I see it in so many other people as well, in their personal lives and in their business. And here's what happens is we live in the pendulum. We live in the pendulums of life, where either we believe we have to be fully transparent, fully open to the world, no secrets, everybody knows our business and our drama, or we have to be all the way over here, which means that we don't share anything, right? People don't really know the real us. We put on a show, even though we probably wouldn't say we're putting on a show, we would probably say we're just being professional, right? Or we're just sticking to our brand. But really, we're putting on a show because it feels comfortable to present one version of ourselves when really we're very dynamic people, very dynamic. But there's one version of you, there's one version of me that maybe the world has validated. And so that's the version that I continue to show. And for me, maybe it's this like professional community and retention strategist. And that's what I want to present to the world because that's the version that's been validated. And that feels safe. So I stay over here, or maybe I present nothing at all and I hide and I don't show up. I don't show up for my community anymore because I've been burned. And this is a real thing, especially post-pandemic, post-cancel culture. So many people would say that they have experienced PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from the experiences that many of us faced if you were in the public eye online during the pandemic, during 2020 and 2021. Now, some people would argue that's PTSD, but I don't argue people's emotions. I definitely don't argue their emotions. But I've seen it and witnessed it firsthand with dear friends who were hurt very badly because they had trusted their community. They had trusted the internet with their story and their life. And it came back to hurt them and hurt them deeply. Because when we open up fully like that, we open ourselves up to be hurt deeply. And now, many of them are still keeping their community at a distance. Really at a distance. Like I said, boundaries are good. Boundaries are healthy. But some of you, you're not showing up anymore. You used to feel connected to your community and you're coming to me and you're saying, my community is dead. There's no engagement. What happened? I don't understand. And I look at you and I say, I know exactly what happened. You stopped showing up. You got afraid. You got hurt, which is fair. You needed time to heal, which is fair. But now it's time to come back. It's time to come back with healthy and strong boundaries, but still showing up for your people because your community, they're missing out on you. They came to you because they knew that being connected to you was going to help create some new possibility in their life, and yet you're not showing up for them. You're delivering content. You're putting out stuff and information, but you're not showing up fully for them. You're not letting them know you. You're not creating connection with them, and they're missing out on that connection. And you're missing out on that connection because you have amazing people inside of your community that you can get to know, that you can build connection with, and you can have a greater impact when you do. And here's the truth. You don't have to share all of the skeletons in your closet. I know oftentimes we feel like we have to pull back the curtain and let people in on our life. Maybe you've heard somebody say that, right? And you feel like, oh, I'm going to have to let out all the skeletons in my closet. And if I don't let them out, they're going to find out. Or all of the thoughts in my mind, all of my opinions, all of my loyalties, all of my beliefs, I have to put all of that on the table in order to live authentically online, which is just not true. It's not ingenuine of you to have beliefs or people and relationships or thoughts or feelings that you don't share online, that you don't share with your community. Now, my personal belief is that you should have somebody that you are sharing them with, whether that be a spouse or a counselor or a dear friend. We all need somebody that knows us fully, right? But that shouldn't be 500, 5,000, 500,000 people on the internet. And it's wise of us to have those kinds of boundaries in our life. But it is not wise to keep hiding. It's not wise to try and be somebody that you're not. Because if you're presenting as somebody that you're not, when you get negative feedback or somebody doesn't like what you have to say, it doesn't hurt as bad because it wasn't really you in the first place, right? And y'all, I'm speaking to myself here because I can fall into this same trap too. There have been plenty of times that I have wanted to share something, that I have thought something. I'm like, oh, I should post about that. I should share this. I took a video and just left it in my photo stream, right? Because I think, oh, I don't know that they need to see that side of me. I don't know that they are going to like that side of me. Or maybe they're going to think I'm being inauthentic because I usually present as this like professional, put together person, and they don't know the girl that used to have a system in her trunk and 17-inch chrome rims growing up and, listened to gangster rap. Like, they don't know that girl. They don't know the girl that does funny accents at the kitchen table to make her family laugh at dinner time. And so I don't know if you like her. So I don't show up as her. Or maybe I've thought, I put something out like this before and it was a ghost town, right? Sometimes I look back at the things I put out online and I can tell that I am in performance mode. I don't know about you, but I get into this like professional Shana mode. Like, Shana, you're a professional. You're an adult. You do important things. So you're going to speak differently. Your tonality is different. Your pace, your rhythm is different. Everything feels different about me when I get into performance Shana mode. And people that know me really well that see that are like, girl, that's not you. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think you're doing? Acting like that. And I think that's true about me. When I look back, I'm like, who was that girl? Because that was not me. And that's not to say that we can't have this like professional side of ourselves and we can't hide the fact that we wear sweatpants all day on Monday or whatever it might be and then show up in our like Prada and Gucci on Tuesday for the people in our community. Sure, that's fine. Like I said, you don't have to present all those sides of you. As long as that like Prada and Gucci wearing side of you is true to who you are. But here's what I know my desire is. My desire is to show up consistently and authentically for my community. I desire that when people meet me in person, having known me online, that they experience me in my day-to-day. And it doesn't feel like they've been bamboozled, but they leave thinking, she's just like I thought she would be. That means, though, that they have to feel like they know me. They need to know that behind that put-together girl on stage is a Jesus-loving, homeschooling mom and grandma who loves avocados, smoothies, paddleboarding, and has too many tea mugs, right? They need to know that. Maybe they don't need to know all of that exactly, but if you know me as just the community expert or just the retention expert, you may want to work with me. You may, because you don't know anybody else that does that. But if there's somebody else out there doing the same thing that you know, and you have more connection points with them because they've shown up authentically and I haven't, I guarantee you, you will work with them over me, even though I've been doing this thing way longer and have better results. And guess what? I wouldn't blame you for doing it. So how many people are you missing out on in your business and in your life? Because we like to buy from people that we are connected to. We want to buy from people that we trust, and we can't trust people that we don't know. And I'll tell you what, it's not just about how it'll grow your business and your community, although it will. It's about how it's going to grow you. Part of this entrepreneurial journey is realizing that you are not for everyone. It's about facing rejection and moving forward anyways. It's about changing and morphing and realizing that the girl I was 10 years ago when I walked away from my corporate job and took a $15 an hour client as my first consulting client is definitely not the girl that I am today. And that's okay. We have to give ourselves and each other permission to change and permission to show up as fully as we want and as transparently or not transparently as we want. And realize that however we're showing up, as long as we are showing up truly as who we are, that is all we're asking for when it comes to authenticity. You get to decide how you show up, who you show up for, what you share. But it's my encouragement to you that if you have fallen on the other side of that pendulum, where you're not showing up anymore because you're afraid, because you've seen what the online space can do to people, that you join me and move it a little bit closer to the middle. Move a little bit closer. Just share a little bit of a different side of you. Give them a little bit of the behind the scenes. And don't worry about how people respond. Don't worry about what they care. But just know that when you show up more fully for people, they show up more fully for others. You know, earlier I said that authenticity is that you are who you say you are. But the truth is that most of us are too fearful or maybe even too focused to tell people who we are beyond our business. And then we wonder why we can't build trust. So my encouragement to you and to me today is that transparency is not required for connection, but authenticity is. So together, let's swing that pendulum back to the middle. Let's get clear on our boundaries. That's fair. Let's build those walls around certain areas of our life. You know, people talk all the time about knocking down your walls. That's this false view of transparency. You're allowed to have walls around certain areas of your life. That's okay. But even still, I want you to be intentional about inviting people into those areas of your life that are outside of those walls, to show them who you are beyond your business. And when you do, you'll build trust in a way that creates a genuine connection with your community.